I want to start off by asking you, why is presentation so important when you're looking to command a room?
A mentor told me when I was younger that dressing well does not indicate that you're trying too hard, because if you look like crap, people think you just don't get it. And if you're talking about like the women to men dynamic, right? The female male dynamic, women respect competence above more than anything else. In fact, people think that women want rich men. No, money is just a status marker for competence, right? People say like, well, if women want men with money, then why do women sleep with like the dirty, greasy guitar player on stage that lives in his mom's basement? And the reason is because they can see that man's competence being displayed on stage. Like he's got enough competence to be on that stage. And that's what women want, right? Because competence is a signal for a better future, right? And when you take a woman to be your own, like you offer her, provision and protection and security, what you're offering that woman is the promise of a better future, and she better believe it, right? So by expressing competence in really any domain, is just a marker that you're a competent man. And that's a good thing. Like, so there's a really big reason why women would fundamentally be more willing to talk to a man who is better presented. And it's not about being a supermodel. It's about being competent, right? Being a supermodel male maybe doesn't hurt because you're showing competent genetics, which infers intelligence. Like we believe that people who look better are more trustworthy and more intelligent. That's been studied. But presentation is another marker of competence. And then for men to men dynamics, like as a man, would you trust to go into business with an incompetent man?
No.
And you don't want incompetent friends for a number of reasons. One reason is incompetent friends are more likely to screw you over because when they have an opportunity to get something they don't usually get, they'll step on you to get that. You know that, right? Like your friends when you were younger and maybe you had some loser friends you still allowed into your life, they were always at risk of dating your ex-girlfriend because they just hadn't had a lot of opportunities. But as a brother to brother, you would never date your friend's ex-girlfriend because you know that's crossing a boundary. That's emasculating to both of you. Fair?
Yeah, for sure.
So competence markers between men and men are also important. So if I'm going to befriend or do business with another dude, I want to make sure that guy can take care of himself so that I don't have to take care of him.
I've always said the link between something physical that a girl perceives about you and its deeper meaning is always very prominent. And I think girls subconsciously do it because I don't believe that the majority of women are intelligent enough to make the direct correlation, but they used a lot of past experience and a lot of past trauma to develop this mindset where they see certain characteristics of a man, whether that be the way he dresses, whether that be the way he speaks or communicates or holds himself, and link it to a long-term characteristic trait, which is going to allow them to be safe and comfortable around said person.
So it's not you're not intelligent enough argument for women. It's that women express intelligence differently from men, if I may. So basically, as men, we know that the ultimate form of conflict resolution is within the physical domain. What that means is that if you and I don't get along for a not long enough period of time, there's a non-zero chance we're going to fight it out. Is that true?
At the top bracket, yeah.
Of course. But women are not participating in that domain whatsoever because women have no domain over physical violence, right? So women compete on emotional intelligence, meaning that women have a higher degree of neuroticism. They're generally more afraid of what's going to happen in the future than men are because they have absolutely no control once we enter the physical domain, right? Which is why women communicate indirectly because of threat of violence. I'll give you an example. If a woman rejects a guy, she doesn't say, I'm not giving you my number because I don't like you that much. She'll say, sure, here you go. And then she'll very sparsely reply to your text, right? She doesn't want direct confrontation. You're like, oh, she's stupid. No, she's not. She's literally biologically wired because she's the smaller of the sexes. She's the weaker physically of the sexes. Her biological wiring indicates that she needs to avoid physical confrontation of all costs. So they communicate indirectly. So men, we communicate at a very straight level right here. Women communicate with the text that's underneath the text. So you have to learn to speak womanese. And as men, we're like, that's not intelligence. Why can't she just say no? It's like, because it can harm her physically. You might say, well, I wouldn't harm his physically, but would you put it past some other guy that she outright rejects that could get pretty upset in that scenario?
Yeah, and that's why I think stoicism is so important for men. Because when you get emotionally invested into the language of woman, which, as you said, is womanese, a completely different language, you're taking everything at the level it's spoken at, and then you're taking everything out of context because you don't actually understand what she's saying. And where stoicism plays a massive part in that is you need to take a step back, assess everything that she's just said, and then direct it into an underlying feeling that she's carrying with her to identify usually the problem, which it is with a woman, and then resolve the problem in a stoic fashion.
Yeah, and this is, we talked about like what I do professionally, which is sales and negotiation. Men with money act exactly the same way because they're trying to preserve the resource of wealth, and they're afraid of social castigation. Like women are afraid of being known as sluts. Of course they are, because it lowers their perceived value, right? Which is when women slander other women, what do they say? Oh, she's a slut, right? Even though it could be completely hypocritical, they understand at a biological level what that infers. Men with money are the same way, right? Like they don't want to have their reputation damaged, and they don't want to extend their resources to somebody that's not going to take good care of those resources. So we actually see that in negotiations, being really good at understanding womanese is also really, really good at understanding negotiations.
So we've talked about the importance and the background, as to say, of why dressing and presenting well is important. How do you physically dress high status?
How do you physically dress high status? So that's
With a pinch of salt for maybe a younger,
yeah,
audience, with
yeah.
a pinch of salt.
So look, I asked my friend when I was growing up, he was a mentor. I said, what does high status even mean? He goes, I don't know, but I know that high status is generally the absence of low status.
Yeah, the same way that a lot of people say, what is discipline? And I say, it's not actually doing loads, it's the ability to say no to things.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. And so how do you dress high status? That's a really good question. Well, first of all, context is important, because, you know, if you're dressed like I am right now and you're 22 years old, you kind of look like a fool. Let's just get that out of the way, right? I'm contextually appropriate for my audience, which are going to be middle-aged, like fund manager, hedge type kind of guys that see me as a well-dressed gentleman, let's say. And if you're 22 and you're dressing like this, you're out of sorts. And I've seen, you know, guys online that are like, oh, I wear 3-piece bespoke suits with these hats. I'm like, dude, you're 20 years old. You just look like a clown. Like, don't do that, right? So context matters, right? I'm not sure that I can answer that across the board for everybody. What I would say, there's some fundamental basics, right? Like here's like a couple of small things, right? Um, Spend $300 on a good pair of jeans. Like that's expensive for you. I get that, but like do that anyways. Like just have one or two great pairs of jeans rather than a whole bunch of like crappy $15 pairs that look like just like two pieces of something, right? If you're a young guy, get a leather jacket. You would agree with that. Like a solid t-shirt, just have at least one good leather jacket, just something that like is casual and fits into a lot of situations. And for God's sakes, man, get out of your sneakers and skater shoes. Like get a couple of decent pairs of shoes. Women notice shoes actually before they notice anything else.
So it's very ironic, because you've half answered the next question, which I wanted to ask, which is, what investment advice would you have for a broke man? Because this is essentially one of the hardest questions to answer ever, right? It's like, how, what advice are you going to give to a virgin to make sure he gives her the night of her life?
Yeah, it doesn't work, right?
You know, you can't really do that. So, but this is a real life situation. Probably the most common situation in the world.
Yep.
You have poor men who would rather spend their money at the pub, that don't have money left around for self-investment, that off a $0 budget or of $100 budget don't necessarily know where to start. So you're saying with the jeans, which is interesting. For me, one of the biggest problems out there is people still dressing in clothes that don't present as if you take yourself seriously.
Right.
And if you don't take yourself seriously, passing on the information that she can't take you seriously. So let's say a $200 budget, which if you don't have $200 or can't go and beg or work for your dad or your uncle.
Can I pause for a second? Why don't we solve that first problem first? If you don't have $200 to spend on clothing, first of all, well, the first thing I would say is if you're drinking, stop it. Like no guy in his 20s should ever touch alcohol. I really believe that. I didn't touch alcohol. I think I had my first beer when I was like 35, which is insane. I just wouldn't do it, because I'm like, you go to the pub, it's like $8 for something. I'm like, and then, you know, you have 3 beers that you're $30 out. You're like, I'm like, what are you guys doing? Like, that's insane.
Well, this is a cool. Ironically, my sales team have a lot with me, and this is incredible. Something you'd never believe. My sales team talk to me and say, "Diego, we've just had a talk with this guy. I lock in with him quite a lot. We review, methods, techniques, what our audience is doing, and why they're not purchasing certain things, etc., etc." And I talk to my sales team and they say, we've just spoken with a guy, we've just got off the phone with him, and you won't believe what he says. I asked him, how many times do you go to the pub every month? And he says like 2-3 times. How much do you spend on average? £200. Okay.
Jesus.
So £200 a month.
Yeah.
We have a self-investment course available for less than $100. What if we limited that to start off with? Let's compromise to one time a month and put some beer money aside to invest in yourself and invest in essentially every single aspect of your future. No, I don't have the money right now.
Right, of course. Yeah.
And to me and to you, that's insane, right? Because we've just literally done 1 + 1, subtract 1, changes 2 to 1, which means you've got 1 left over. And they don't understand that mathematics. They're like, what? Why would I stop going to the pub? No, I need that £100 extra and I need to ask my boss for an early payment so I can make the pub that week, which is in my culture and in my routine.
As a business owner, I think what you already understand is that's not the guy you're trying to appeal to.
Yeah.
You can't sustain that which will not sustain itself.
It's frustrating. It's frustrating, and you're correct, it's not sustainable. But I definitely let my frustrations integrate with my necessity to heal.
I learned this a long time ago, again, through a similar business, recruiting young men into a self-development program when I was in university, and that is the people that need the help the most are the least likely to get it. And the more you try to help them, the worse it gets for you. So if there's a person listening that like that guy that needs the most help, he's by far the least likely guy to take any action to get that help. And that's just how it is. Like there's a parasite class that exists amongst us, right? And their entire existence is distracting themselves with entertainment and not looking at the future. And so what does he do? He goes to the pub. He distracts himself with entertainment for twice the money it would cost to learn from you, which is a valuable source of information that can probably turn his life to a more positive direction within the first 6 months or so. Fair?
Way less.
Sure.
But yeah.
That's not the guy that you're going to be working with. And you know what? That's okay. That's okay. Dude, I know guys like that. I don't talk to them anymore, but I know guys that were like that in their 20s that are 40 now. And you know what their life looks like at 40 compared to 20?
The same.
Yeah. It's just like a shittier version of the same thing. Being broke at 20 is at least kind of allowable.
Does that mean they never hit rock bottom?
Did they what?
Maintaining the same life between 20 and 40, does that on the masses mean that they never hit rock bottom?
I think everything to them is rock bottom. You know what rock bottom to me is? I'll tell you what I think rock bottom is. Rock bottom is the same job for 25 years where you do the same thing for 25 years. You're just stuck on repetition, right? And what you have in your life are not the things you want. You just have the best version of something you can kind of get, but it's really the only version. For example, every guy at 40 drives a car. Is just like some guys drive a really nice car compared to the shitty car. Every guy's got some woman in his life. It's just one guy's got a whale and one guy's got a beautiful, loving, you know, blah, blah, blah. Or some guy maybe experiences abundance through a different form. We all get the same thing. There's just different versions of that thing, right? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So what the hell is rock bottom if not like just a life you don't really like that much, but you just sort of put up with it? And, you know, for me, when I was in my early 20s, like really at 20, I realized that I'm living a life that I'm not really that comfortable with because I want a better version of everything that I have. Like, yeah, I had a little bit here, a little bit there, but it was always the shittiest version. Like if I go eat, I'm always buying the shittiest version of the food. You know, if I'm buying clothing, I'm buying the shittiest version of that clothing. My car was, I think, I'm not even sure it was street legal. It was that bad. It was a 1988 Toyota Corolla that smelled like old people. That's what a girl said once. She got into my car on a date. She goes, "This car smells like old people." I'm like, so are you into that? Like, I don't know, you know?
Yeah. I mean, one of the biggest differences between having the whale and having that girl that we all so crave, who's not only high value in her appearance, but also in her acts of services and the way she treats you and the way she allows you to optimize in your masculinity and your masculine frame. One of the biggest differences is our knowledge on how to attract that kind of woman. Because if you know how to attract that kind of woman and you work consistently hard on how to attract that kind of woman and become very regimented in that sense, it's actually very applicable. What's one of the biggest lies you think we're told? Now, my brand and your brand, or a part of my brand and your brand is called the truth. Mine being probably for similar reasons to you, that genuinely every piece of information we access from the age of 0 to near or so 21, unless we're very early to our senses, is sourced around lies.
Correct.
And information that wants to keep us in a certain manner of lack of masculinity, etc. What's the biggest lie? What's the biggest piece of misinformation that men are obtaining to satisfy themselves with a whale as opposed to take the leap to attract a high value woman?
You're going to get as a man, and I'm going to be very reductive, and this is going to be just, again, I try to distill the principle, like the real pillar of what the truth is in the most reductive and quick way as I can to explain it in the most succinct way possible. And I look at that and I think a woman respects a man who respects himself. Period. End of sentence. So what kind of man respects himself? Okay. A man that respects himself is a man who keeps his promises to himself. That is respect. It's not, oh, I think I'm great. Like delusion is a very fine line between delusion and reality.
What's your difference between a word and a promise? because I'd say that keeps his word to himself.
Well, I
If you
don't
say
think,
something to yourself, it should automatically
there's no difference. Like,
so noticing the value of your word is imperative as well.
if I say I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it regardless of how I feel later about it.
And
Meaning,
that's already a promise that you've made to yourself without identifying it as, I promise myself I will do this, by telling yourself something.
I know that if I tell myself I'm going to do something, I'm going to feel very different tomorrow about that thing, because the feeling that I said with which, that I had when I said that thing that I said I was going to do, the feeling will change, but the fact won't change. Like, if I say I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it. That's it.
Yeah, the cycle between your word and action is going to determine the level of self-respect and therefore self-confidence you then have, and self-trust you then have to repeat the cycle, essentially.
I was talking to a girl in my office. She's a young saleswoman in our office, and she's very smart. And we were doing some training on how to get a prospect to show up for a sales appointment, which I'm sure is a problem you sometimes have as well. We all do in business. And I gave her the formula that I use. I'm like, you say this, and then you say this. And this is a very structured formula. And she's like, she starts kind of like, she's got this coy little laugh. I'm like, what's so funny? She goes, it's funny that you're saying this. She goes, because when I ghost guys on dates, this is exactly what would get me back on that date. And I'll tell you the process. It's very simple. You get a commitment. You say, hey, are you going to be here at 6 o'clock? Cool. Okay. You sure? Yeah. I'll see you at 6. If they want to cancel last minute, which is, if girls cancel dates, they cancel last minute, right? If he messages you 5 minutes before, like, hey, I can't make it, you go, cool. Do you want to reschedule, or is that your polite way of canceling? Okay. And obviously everybody says, I want to reschedule, but they never quite say that. They say, oh, I want to reschedule, but let's do it later. I'm just really busy right now. That's always the answer. And she goes, that's funny, because if a guy said that to me, I'd be like, yeah, let's reschedule, but I'm just really busy right now. Let's try in a few weeks, right? And I'm like, and so what does the guy do 2 weeks later? He's like, hey, do you still want to go out? He starts chasing. And I said, if you keep him to his promise, like if you keep the prospect to his promise, or if you keep that woman to her promise, you don't have to chase. I said, don't text, hey, are we still on? Hey, are you around? I say, let's text this. Hey, do you want to reschedule? Just want to cancel. Oh, let's reschedule, but I'm just really busy right now. And you know what I would say? I'd say, Diego, I respect that. But transparently, if I gave you my word about a commitment, then I would follow through on that. And if I were to break that commitment, I would rectify it, because I know that's my responsibility. Likewise, you wouldn't want to deal with me if I didn't keep my promise. And since you were the one that canceled our meeting, I feel like you should rectify this, not me.
100%. It's a
and then goes, and if the guy's got character, he's like, I'm sorry, you're right. And then they propose another time. And I'm like, what if a guy ever did that to you? Rather than like, okay, I'll call in 2 weeks, be like, hey, listen, with all due respect, like, you canceled last minute, and I understand things come up, but as you were the one that broke the commitment, I feel it is your responsibility to rectify it, not mine. So what would you like to do?
Yeah, I identify this problem a lot in dating, and it's a big transition that I've made when I text girls about. I'm very sharp now to the meeting stage, and understandably, girls don't often feel extremely comfortable meeting very early on. But I'm very sharp to the, hey, let's go grab a coffee, or let's go do this like at this time. And if a girl tells me no, or the response is like, I can't do this time, or I cancel late, and doesn't propose a new time,
then it's done. Yeah.
For me, I won't chase them. And the difficult thing with the chasing is, as soon as you make the initial chase, and it can be as short as a double text, the whole dynamic is completely messed up.
Yes.
Completely. The scales are so imbalanced and so unrevivable that any time or effort you're giving into the situation. And I'm talking about if you're trying to pursue this girl as a long-term relationship, not even looking at a casual date.
Yeah, you're going to be in service to her, and that's not an ideal relationship. Yeah,
from day one. So it's really imperative to maintain the scales. Like,
so I love that, because this is exactly what we teach in negotiation and sales: is status equilibriums, right?
Why do men chase so much?
Why do men chase so much? Because we're hunters, and because we're untrained. It's training. Listen, here's the deal, right? All men want this. All men want the same thing. True. Like we kind of do, like, okay, some men want more of it. Like I used to say a lot, I'm like, I want the same thing as all the other men. I just want way more of it. We all want the same thing. We're just not trained on how to get that thing. Like, a lot of it is training. It really is. Like, you can be trained, as you teach men how to meet and attract women. You can train men to do that. And I've seen, and I've talked to you about, the results that you get for your clients are amazing results. Like, life-changing type stuff. They could be doing the same thing for 10 years and not realizing it's the wrong thing, and then blame the market, which is women. And then you go in and you say, hey, I found a constraint. If you remove this constraint, things will change. And they change almost instantly. True?
So a lot of it's their willingness to unlearn what they've already been told, and that takes a certain level. And this is why men are generally better than it than women are, because it takes a certain level of truth, ugliness, and realization to take out the mold underneath and then replant seeds. And if you're truly willing to unlearn everything, which basically means you're left with nothing, because I'm telling you, as a 20-year-old man, you have to go back on the last 20 years of your life and tear it all up, all your certificates, all of your knowledge, everything. You have to destroy it. You're left with nothing. You're left butt naked. And it comes to a sense of how much you trust yourself as a man to be butt naked. And the process forward from that is much quicker from a naked perspective.
Here's the problem, dude. We're going to talk truth, right? Like 40% of men are raised without a father in the home. 80% of elementary school teachers are women. 73% of all university students are women. Our institutions are run by women. Like, I would not be so pompous to tell a woman how to embrace her true feminine self. That's not a position I can take, because I'm not a woman. I don't live in her body. I don't deal with the menstrual cycle, you know? And I can understand it empirically, but to understand it emotionally and philosophically would not be plausible, right? How can men that have no male role models in their life understand masculinity as it's being taught by women through their lens of perception, right? It's not possible. So a really big problem we have in society is actually that men are no longer running institutions. And so you have figures like yourself, I think, to like an Andrew Tate, to a more, like, let's say, extreme example, because men are yearning for that understanding of what it means to be a man. And I take a lot of care with my sons too. Like, like I have sons, I have 4 kids, I have sons and daughters, got 2 of each. And I take a lot of care with my sons now that I'm engaging in physical rough play with them. Like when we're playing outside, whether it's soccer or we're playing hockey, I take a really strong initiative to be a little bit rougher with my boys. And my wife is like, oh my God, what are you doing? And I go, they need to learn how to survive, man. Like, there are things they say to me that are poking fun at their dad, and it's okay. You should poke fun at your dad. Like, it's a nice thing in a relationship, right? But then there's a boundary that's going to get you kicked in the ass too. And you need to know where that is. And if you don't learn that boundary as a man, then life will kick you in the ass. And that's not fun either, is it?
Yeah, it's a horrible position to be in when you're touching adulthood and you're being told by someone, you're being told across a screen, not even physically, across the screen by someone that everything you've learned is wrong. And as I say,
I'm sorry to interject, but I think this is really important. Do you know how men find out everything they learn is wrong? Silence. Just silence. Like, no responses from women, no responses from the market giving them money. Men, it doesn't show up at your door.
No results.
It doesn't show up at your door and kick your ass. It eats away with you slowly with nothingness. You're not getting invited to parties that you want to be at, and you're just finding yourself trying to distract yourself from reality. It's not a punch in the face that gets you. It's nothing.
Yeah. Which is a slower form of realization, which for me is a case of, depending on what your standards are of a man, which should be high, people have nothing way before they know they have nothing. And nothing is having to chase women, like continuously chasing women just to get results, investing a lot of time in that. Nothing is having no progression on your empire, being in the same job for the last 2-3 years, or in the same position, or in the same payroll, or in the same habits, or the same strength category, whatever it is you're doing. Being in the same positions for a long amount of time is essentially the same thing. And that revelation of discomfort is horrible, and it hurts, and it's ugly, and it will give you every single ounce of power you need to change your life, because you need a lot to change your life to this level of dramaticness, as to say. You need a lot of pain, and the realization of what you have essentially in all is that pain that you need. The willingness to do that comes with a lot of discomfort, which not a lot of guys are prepared to endure.
Choose your pain, man. You're going to feel it anyways.
Yeah, and examples of what you and I both teach, which is whether it be the sales, the art of putting yourself in a situation with a high likelihood of being rejected, but by females, by high net worth businessmen, entrepreneurs, etc., is a great form of rejection, and understanding the lesson of rejection within that. And it's a journey that all guys need to take, and it's very difficult, as to what you said before, which is, if there are the guys at the rock bottom that don't want to embrace that and don't want to understand that, my instinct is to really reach out and try as hard as I possibly can to save them.
The problem is they have to care about their results more than you care about their results. This is the same thing in leadership in a company, right? Like I tell my leaders, if you care more about the person you're training than they care about their own career, if you care more about their career than they care about their own career, you're going to be in trouble. It's the same. It's the white knight principle with women, right? It's like if you care more about her, about her soul than she cares about her soul, then you're going to get burned really bad by that. The whole white knight situation, right? I'm not saying how you should conduct yourself. Like, you figured out pretty well. But understand, you can't be a white knight to a guy that you want to help as more than he wants to help himself. It's a very dangerous game.
Yeah, it's the same.
And when you fail, they hate you, even though all you did was try to make it better for them.
Yeah. No, it makes complete sense, and it's always the same with girls. It's ironic because in the dating game, I portray it as this: you actually have to get in the field, learn the game at its most intricate level, and then once you know the game, you actually get out of the game, because once you're playing the game,
you can break all the rules.
You can. Yep. But what I see now is every single person is playing the game without the rules. So first of all, you have to learn the rules whilst you're playing the game, because otherwise you'll be stuck in the game. You'll be stuck in the game forever. So you have to get in the game. You have to throw yourself in the field with no experience. You have to be extremely aware. Self-awareness is, I think, the number one catalyst to success and to improvement is self-awareness. And once you learn the game substantially, you then you don't want to be in the game, because you take a step back and you see everyone playing the game and you're like, wait a minute, they're all playing the game. It's like an owner of a football club. You're just sitting there in the stands watching everyone give their heart and soul for the team, and you're collecting your paychecks. And that's what I'm doing. That's what I've spent almost a 5-year journey playing the game, mastering the game, learning the game, repeating the cycle of the game, understanding the escape route of the game, escaping the game, practicing understanding the game from an outside perspective, and then just doing exactly what I want.
Yeah.
While everyone's imploding all of their effort.
Yeah.
While I'm sitting up here, and these guys are coming to me crying about their girlfriends that cheated on them, whilst I'm the guy that girls are just coming to because their boyfriend's at home crying.
You're outcome independent, but most guys aren't going to understand that for many years in their life, right? Like, to become truly outcome independent is the most freeing thing in the world. So congratulations on that feeling, right? Like, I don't care too much about what I'm going to say to whom anymore, because I just don't have that. I just don't have the fear of loss. And it's just like, that's what it is. But that's a high level. At the most basic level, when you said, well, self-awareness is hard, I think the first question a guy's going to ask, how do I know if I'm being self-aware? And the answer is very simple. Look at your results. Your results are the same as your level of self-awareness. I.e., if you have crap results, you're not self-aware. Just accept that. And that's okay. Like, it's okay to just look and go, hey, I wish my results were like this, but they're actually like this. That means I just don't know the heck I'm doing. Great. That's a good place to start.
But as if your results are continuously the same crap, because you can be crap and self-aware. Your crapness just happens every time.
I think you can be aware that you're crap, but it's not the same as being self-aware as to why. And the answer is mentorship, and it's always been mentorship. You know what boys used to have growing up back in the old times? Fathers. And those fathers had to do hard things to survive, right? And through that, those fathers were able to bestow knowledge and wisdom to their boys. And today, I don't know what boys have, but they have a lot of inattention from older males, because those same older males probably went through a prior generation that let go of some of that stuff that makes masculinity so great. But we are story-loving creatures, right? Men learn from other men, which is why you're doing what you're doing. You have a paternalistic instinct within you that maybe one day you will transfer to your children. And that paternalistic instinct is seeing a younger version of yourself in those men and saying, it can be better, man. Right? That's the spirit of the father, is it not?
Yeah, 100%.
That's exactly what that is, right?
And that's why I try and portray the message to these guys that I've been out in the field doing this, sacrificing a lot of my time and energy. And it took me the more or less 5 years to attain all of this information. And with the right level of rules and right level of understanding and willingness to attack, you can do so in a lot less.
Look, man, I mean, and if you want to get really transparent about it, you're recognizing something that you genuinely, and you're not going to maybe agree to this, but when you dig deeper, I think you'll see you genuinely didn't like your younger self.
Oh no, I've
see it comes okay. Yeah. You want to kill your younger self. You don't like that guy, and then when you see that guy living in another man's body, you go, I don't want to see that. That's fatherhood, right? Because I look at my son, I go, I don't want him to experience some of those things that I experienced. So so And then you go, well, then now women are coming to me. Of course they are, man, because you're experiencing the spirit of the father, one who takes care of, one who builds, one who constructs societies that function on a set of rules that have boundaries, right? And women sense that, they're like, this guy's got it, man.
For sure. Female attraction is so interlinked with the journey we go on with ourselves, which is what, you know, it's the message we're trying to portray as intensely as possible. Is that this insane journey? If you look at my journey, it really is it's a book in itself. And I only realized that when I was on a plane. I was on a plane journey traveling to, I think I was going to Australia. And I was on my way to Australia, and I was writing on my laptop. And I started writing like a short. I wanted to create an Instagram reel for my story. And I started typing. About 30 minutes later, I had a short story, a general short story that could easily be given to an author and related into, you know, a book for people to learn from, with the art of failure, with the art of self-awareness, and the art of truth. Because the real truth is found out when you go on that journey, when you take yourself on that journey with the willingness you have for it. And this is what frustrates me so much, is that we have all of this information accessible with our community, with the message we're trying to portray, and people reject it. People reject it, and it's a shame. And they will be the people with the same jobs at 40 years old, and they will be the people that will never ever accept that they're not living the life that they want to. But there is opportunity. Even in this crazy world, there is a lot of opportunity to really take your life at rock bottom and make something of it with the right mindset. So, you know, we're providing the opportunity to people, and continuously strive to do so. But the link between, you know, presentation, female attraction, self-development, it's all very interlinked. It all comes with the cycle you talked about before of your word, action, self-respect, self-confidence, self-trust. And then once you achieve true self-trust, like you walk around not caring what people think, what people, you know, judge you for, and then you're able to apply action much easier with a much stronger and calmer level of brain power. And the cycle is quite beautiful. It's quite beautiful. So apart from the self-investment, the $200 self-investment in a new pair of jeans, what's a closing message you'd give to our audience of struggling and younger gentlemen that want to make small changes to start changing their life around, and not the guys that would rather waste it in a pub?
Just say, look, it's okay to suck. Like, every man is born with no value. Women are born with value. When men are not born with value, just, it's fine. Like, if you're not getting invited to the parties you want to go to, or if you're not making the money you want to make, that's fine. Like, that's exactly, just realizing that you're not where you want to be, or you're not heading where you want to go, is like 99% of everything. Just like sit down and be like, hey, maybe that's not where I want to be, and maybe that's not where I want to go. And that's perfectly cool. That's perfectly cool, right? Um, and then usually those doors reveal themselves. Like, if they're listening to your program right now, or this recording, and they're going, okay, well, you know, I don't like where I'm going. It's like, you can get better. Okay. You can find $200 to get it better. Like, what the hell? And if you can't find $200, that's not a hard problem to solve. Go work at Subway. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, go work at Subway. You'll save $200. Like, it's fine. It's perfectly fine.
Also, when you're not getting invited to the party, instead of saying, oh, I'm not getting invited to the party, no one likes me, change the question you're asking yourself as to, like, why? You know, identify the problem. When you identify the problem, which is, I don't have $200, what's the solution to that? Find money. Find any money. You know, find money, and find a way to create wealth and invest that $200 into myself.
I kind of look at it and I go, you know, if you're not getting invited to a party and you're like, I'm not that interesting, I'm not that this, I'm not that, you don't get interesting at parties. You get interesting when you're by yourself. You know, I met a lot of really, really, really successful people, and it's what they do when they're alone that makes them successful. Whether, like, when you're alone, you're probably at the gym.
That's the only thing that makes you unique.
Yeah, it's what you do when you're alone. That's the thing. So if what you do when you're alone is learning from Diego, then do that. But do not do the thing when you're alone where you're just, you know, jerking off or watching Netflix alone. Like, when you're looking for distraction alone, that's when you have a really big problem.
Yeah, it goes back to our message of the ability to say no to things is as great as the ability to actually do things. When I started to say no to things, the trajectory of my life changed, because then once I was saying no to certain things, it was only a few select things that I was able to do. And then few select things were all to do with self-improvement and becoming a better person. And then investing in myself into them activities was hugely beneficial.
And hey, even if you don't suck, even if you have it okay and you want to get better, there's still reason to move forward, right? It's very shocking to me how people don't realize how quickly things can get better. Like, have you been ever shocked how quickly the upward trajectory took off? You're like, I can't believe it's happening this fast.
I stopped using my phone in the morning from the hours of when I woke up to like midday. Didn't touch my phone. My focus, my ability to focus. And I did this one morning. On the first morning it happened, my ability to focus from 5 a.m. to 8 p.m., which were my working hours, I didn't move from my laptop. My eyes didn't move all day. I didn't eat. I drank water. I didn't eat. And my rule now is like, go to the gym after the work day's done. After you're completely done, wake up, work. After you're done, like when you start to have brain fog or something, go to the gym. So many days I'm there, 9 p.m. Fuck, I got to sleep in 2 hours. Like, how am I going to get to the gym? And it's incredible. So yeah, like tiny changes can impact your life hugely. And that was living proof of that. Thank you for your insights. Thank you for coming and giving some encrypted messages. And I suggest for anyone who doesn't understand, because it took me some time to really like pay attention to the words and the intricacy of some of the things you say, go back and watch it again. When you're not understanding a book, read it again, and relate the messages to your life as well. I think that's a really important message from here. Like everything that we've just discussed, relate it to your life, because this isn't about you becoming me or becoming Dimitri. It's about you becoming yourself in the absolute best level of capability. And the word you used when we were talking about what a guy can do,
Potential?
but no, what women are attracted to.
Competence.
Competence.
Yeah.